Good afternoon, GISD community. This is Dr. Stewart with another Student Spotlight. Today with me, I have Tate Rains, Salutatorian of the class of 2023 here at Gainesville High School. Tate, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Also, thank you for joining me this afternoon as we dive into these questions.
Absolutely.
All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. All right, Tate, tell us about yourself and your family.
So my family consists of my mom, my dad, and then I have an older brother who recently graduated from a school in Arkansas called Southern Arkansas University. He has a new wife, too. They've been married about half a year. My dad's a police officer at Denison PD, and my mom's a dental hygienist at a local dentistry here.
Okay. So now that you are at the end of your senior year, how long have you been in GISD?
I've been here all of my life, ever since elementary school, even pre-K.
Oh, so pre-K all the way through the 12th grade, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right, so as you reflect upon your time spent here in GISD, what's been your most memorable year, teacher, or even event that's taken place over the course of your career here in GISD?
I'd say probably my most memorable year was last year. It kind of is what sparked my interest in engineering. I had a teacher, Lauren Freeman. He took us on field trips, showed us very basic things about engineering, stuff like that. And it really sparked my interest in what I wanted to do in the future.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Freeman's class is pretty nice. I've been in his class several times, and just to watch the activities that take place within their classroom, from the rocket building and et cetera, is very, very mind-blowing to a math person like me. I love things like that.
Absolutely.
So, now that, again, we're starting to eyeball next year, for you, what does next year look like? Where will you be attending college?
I'll be at Oklahoma University, and I'm going to be competing for their esports program.
Okay. Or what's going to be your major?
I think mechanical engineering, but I have thought about software or computer engineering.
Knowing that you're super excited about attending the University of Oklahoma in the fall, why did you choose Oklahoma?
Firstly, they offered me an esports scholarship, so it got me really interested in that. But also when I was a kid, I followed a lot of their football, basketball, baseball programs, so I was a fan of that. And it's pretty close, and I'm pretty much getting all my tuition paid for as well.
Mm-hmm. With the whole esports program, of course, you've been a part of that program since we started the esports program, correct? That seems to be, it's a growing phenomenon throughout, K-12 education. And people are now starting to become more aware of the benefits of the esports program. Would you tell our users just a little bit about your experience in the esports program here at Gainesville High School?
So for me, it was kind of like a third or fourth sport because I played football and baseball as well. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, it was just kind of another thing I did with some of my friends. And we at first didn't take it very serious, and then we started to get pretty good. And then over time, we took it more and more serious and realized we could go to college for it. Because Benson, my buddy, I think he's going to compete for UNT's team as well.
Okay. And another key thing to note about esports is, and something that I learned as I investigated this further, was I did not realize esports was a multi-billion-dollar industry and growing. So lots of opportunities for esports, and thank you for help setting the tone and blazing that path for students to come and following in your footsteps. Okay. So as you think about now getting ready to transition to University of Oklahoma, what are your goals? What are your long-term goals, but also what are your short-term goals?
In the short term, I obviously want to do well for their esports program and keep my GPA up especially. But in the long term, I want to get my degree, probably a bachelor's in engineering, maybe a master's. I obviously haven't decided. It's a long time. Mm-hmm. But I want to use whatever degree I end up getting to enter a firm like Boeing or Lockheed Martin, any type of big firm like that to make a good salary.
Okay. And both of those organizations pay very well.
Absolutely.
All right. So, when did you find out, as the rank number 2 in your class, when did you find out your class ranking, and what was your reaction?
So I think they pulled us out of class just kind of a random day in February, and it was all of the top 10%. We all kind of knew who was the top 10% at that point, but not necessarily where everybody had fallen. Mm-hmm. And they brought people in from the lowest, I think it was 22nd is where it starts to cut off. And then it eventually got down to me and Andy, who's now the valedictorian, obviously. But at the time, we both kind of were, which one of us is going to get it? Mm-hmm. And when I got called in before him, I kind of knew. Mm-hmm. And at first, I was a little disappointed, but then I kind of just came to the consensus. I worked extremely hard for it, and it is what it is. I mean, Salutatorian's still very good.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's pretty safe to say that, when you look at that top 10%, those 20 to 22 individuals, you all have probably been competing against each other as far as back as your freshman year in school. So y'all have known, y'all have come up from freshman year all the way through your senior years, kind of knowing who was in that upper echelon of academia, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So Tate, now, I don't know about you, if you've had that opportunity just to really sit back and think about the last 3.5, and I'll say 3 3/4 years of your high school career. What's been the highlight of your high school career?
I would say the highlight was probably last year for our nationals run in esports. Mm-hmm. We competed all year for just a chance to even get into nationals, and then by the time we got there, we were, I think, the 3 or the 4 seed, and we upset the 1 and the 2 seed to get into the grand finals of that. And it got a lot of scholarship money for all 4 of my teammates and myself. And it was just overall a great moment.
Oh, I can only imagine. Who would think, we're from Gainesville, Texas, and our students are competing for a national championship in esports. And at the time, our program was still, for the most part, still in its infancy stage. The program was still growing. And so I can only imagine that level of excitement. So now, we've talked about all the good, the exciting, et cetera. Now, as you reflect back upon your high school career, what's been the most challenging?
The most challenging thing was definitely a dual credit class I took this year. It was college algebra. It was all online, and it was extremely difficult. Like, I had to study hours every single day, probably 20 hours a week of studying. I barely got an A at the end of that class. Mm-hmm.
So all that hard work and studying paid off for you.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay, so you hit on this question earlier. As you talk about your involvement in esports and football, et cetera. But will you tell our listeners, what kind of extracurricular activities have you been involved with over your 4 years here at Gainesville High School?
So I was in football for 4 years, baseball all the way up until this year. I was in NHS. I think I got inducted sophomore year to that. Esports since freshman year. Fishing, I did that all the way up until junior year. And I think I'm missing something. Oh, class president, freshman year.
So it's safe to say you're a pretty busy young man. So, one of our biggest parts of our jobs, especially with our high school staff and our high school students, is getting you prepared once you walk across that stage. As you look back and think about, the dual credit classes, your extracurricular involvement, and the list goes on and on and on of the things that you've been involved with, how would you say your experience here at Gainesville High School has prepared you for college?
I would say the dual credit classes particularly, as well as honors and AP classes, really helped to prepare me because essentially I've already took 4 years worth of online college classes. Obviously it'll be a little different at university because it's going to be all in person, all that good stuff. The dual credit kind of allows you to take some sort of freedom, which is what you have to do in college. Because if you don't do that in college, the professors don't really care. You'll just get a 0 on your paper if you don't do it. But in high school, like a normal class, if you don't do it, you at least have a chance to make it up.
So you say one of those big things was just the rigor of those courses.
Yes.
And when you have academically astute students like yourself, although it may be a challenge, you find your way. And as you said earlier, you persevered, you studied 20 hours plus a week, and at the end of the class, you got an A. And that's what it's about. And that's going to be the exact same thing, Tate, from now as a student here at Gainesville High School to when you graduate. When you hit the campus of University of Oklahoma, you just got to be intentional with your time and just continue to prioritize and study. And trust me, everything will fall into place as it should. All right, so when looking back now upon the people who will follow in your footsteps, the class of 2024, 25, 26, and on down the line, what advice would you give to a student as you talk about really maximizing your high school experience?
I would say to be involved in as many extracurriculars as possible and do AP, dual credit, and honors classes because it kind of just maximizes your opportunities to get into other colleges as well. But also your education will be better. You'll have more fun. You'll make more friends, all that good stuff.
The old saying goes, anything worth having is worth working for. And I get it. When you talk about the AP classes, the dual language, dual credit classes, they're harder. But as you just said, and you are a walking example, that level of rigor definitely helps to prepare you for life outside of Gainesville High School. So Tate, I think that's great advice that you've given all of our listeners, and you talk about maximizing the educational experience while in high school. But I think there's something else that's special about you and the experience that you had here at Gainesville High School. Talk to us about it.
So through the dual credit program, me and a couple of other my fellow classmates that are in like the top 10%, like Andy also, we all got our associate degrees, and that fast tracks your sort of education through college. Like I'm going to skip all of the basic classes at OU. I'll skip probably a year, maybe two of classes, and that'll help to fast track any sort of degree I want to get.
Absolutely. So big benefit, now going into high school, going into college as an 18, 19-year-old young man, you hit the campus as either a sophomore, in some cases, maybe even a junior.
Absolutely.
Depending upon which credits transfer to your respective university. That's awesome. That's awesome. Job well done. So with just, 2.5 weeks left in your high school career, what are you going to miss about high school?
I'm definitely going to miss hanging out with all like my good buddies. I have a few coming with me, like my best friend since kindergarten's coming with me to OU, people like that. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to miss all my old teammates that are still even like here, like juniors and sophomores now, even competing with them, all of that.
Well, and I'm sure they're going to miss you. And once a leopard, always a leopard. And we're going to welcome you back with open arms. So anytime you have a break from your studies at OU, you make it a point to come on back home, and we'll make sure you come out and support our kids, our guys and our girls as they compete both on and off the courts. So exciting times, again, on the brink of transitioning off to college. Are you excited about going to college? And if you are, which I'm sure you are, what are you most excited about?
I think I'm really excited to kind of get there and kind of have like the freedom, because I've done so much things in high school where I haven't necessarily got to enjoy stuff outside of extracurriculars, anything like that. Mm-hmm. But when I get there, all I'm going to have on my plate is schoolwork. Obviously, I have to study all of that, and esports. But I think I'm going to have a lot of fun because I already have a good friend group there through esports and meeting other people like online, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's going to be nice to have a lot of freedom.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing like independence, and I think that's one of the things I looked forward to most when I graduated from high school. I went to school about 2 hours away from home, which is OU's about 3 hours away from here. And so it was that sense of kind of being independent, but still very independent, very dependent upon parents, not only for support, but all of the other things that are needed to help you be successful in college. So I get it. All right. So Tate, last question for you is, when you look back to your experience here as a freshman, and now looking back at the classes that are coming behind you, if you had this to do all over again, take current self and then reflect back going back to your freshman year, what advice would you give yourself?
I really don't think I would change much. I mean, I've been relatively successful. The only thing I could say I'd maybe change is I was really hard on myself like freshman, sophomore year. Like if I didn't have a perfect grade, I'd get like almost like mad or like sad kind of. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't think I'd really change much.
Well, Tate, man, it's been an honor and a pleasure to get to work with you these last 5 years. I mean, it seems like just yesterday, man, when I first came to the district, you were in 8th grade. And here it is today. We stand here having a conversation about college, and you're getting ready to go off and do great things at the University of Oklahoma. I can't say enough how proud I am of you, and I encourage you to continue to make us proud. I know you will, and always know that I'm here to support you in any way that I can. Thank you for being a model student, man, and I wish you nothing but the best transitioning to college.
Thank you.
GISD community, Tate Rains, Salutatorian, class of 2023 at Gainesville High School.